The 12th SS Panzer Division, Hitlerjugend, was one of the most disturbing examples of how Nazi Germany weaponized youth during the final years of World War II. Formed in 1943 as the regime faced mounting losses and growing desperation, drawing the majority of its enlisted soldiers from the Hitler Youth organization. Meaning many of the boys sent into combat were only 16 to 18 years old and had spent most of their lives immersed in propaganda that emphasized obedience, sacrifice, and loyalty to Adolf Hitler above all else, while command positions were filled by older, more experienced SS officers who had already fought on earlier fronts, creating a division where ideological commitment was expected to compensate for the soldiers' lack of maturity and real combat experience. These teenagers had been trained from childhood to see war as honorable and necessary, yet most had little understanding of its reality beyond drills and slogans, and when the division was deployed to France in 1944 in response to the Allied landings in Normandy, it was immediately thrown into intense and chaotic fighting that tested even seasoned units, exposing the tragic gap between indoctrination and reality, as the young soldiers faced overwhelming firepower, constant pressure, and conditions they were never emotionally prepared for. Despite their age, the division gained a reputation for fierce resistance, not because of exceptional skill, but because years of indoctrination had instilled a rigid refusal to retreat, a mindset that often led to devastating casualties and unnecessary loss of life, with many soldiers continuing to fight even when situations were clearly hopeless, reflecting how ideology can override self-preservation. Over the course of the Normandy Campaign, the division suffered heavy losses that could not be easily replaced, and as the war dragged on, surviving members were repeatedly redeployed to increasingly desperate defensive battles, including actions in the Ardennes and later within Germany itself, where the collapsing infrastructure and constant Allied advances made survival increasingly unlikely. By this stage of the war, it was clear that Nazi Germany was losing, yet the regime continued to rely on units like the Hitlerjugend division as symbols of fanatical loyalty, reinforcing the tragic reality that these young soldiers were being used not because they were effective, but because there were few alternatives left. Many of those who survived the war later spoke of the confusion and disillusionment they experienced as the propaganda they had grown up with collapsed in the face of defeat, revealing how thoroughly their childhoods had been shaped by manipulation rather than choice. The division was eventually destroyed as a fighting force by the end of the war, leaving behind a legacy that is often misunderstood or misrepresented, as it is not a story of youthful heroism or military glory, but rather a stark example of how authoritarian systems can exploit young people, stripping them of agency and pushing them into roles they are not prepared to bear. The history of the 12th SS Panzer Division stands today as a reminder that indoctrination can be as powerful as weapons. That children raised in closed ideological systems can be made to fight for causes they barely understand, and that the true tragedy lies not only in the battles fought, but in the generations shaped, used, and discarded by a regime that valued loyalty over humanity.